Welcome to a new day. Exciting. Hello, hey amor, hey Perez. How's everyone? Wow, okay. Good to be here today. Woohoo. So, yeah, it's fun dancing, isn't it? I need to get some more music. I stream from Epidemic Sound, which is you can get a subscription to that, and then your music is copyright. You're protected from like copyright claims on your music. So on all of these platforms now, they have really strict rules that if you're streaming using copyrighted music, they'll cut your stream, right? Because you're violating the ownership of the person who wrote the song or has the copyright to it. So there are subscription services now you can use where they have a lot of music that you can choose. Of course, I need more time to go through and select all the songs because they're not like songs that, are popular songs that we all know. So, you're looking, it's more like different independents and stuff like that, which is cool because it gives them a chance to have their music be heard. But it also takes time to hunt through and find songs. And I'm looking for kind of more dancing music because, get up in the morning and rock out a little bit, dance. I don't know if any of you have been missing dancing during COVID, but I have. Hey, Kevin. I've been missing COVID. I've been missing dancing in COVID. So yeah, I thought, why not get up in the morning and rock out a little bit before I start these streams, get the blood flowing. In addition to the Tibetan rites, which I do in the morning, which are basically 5 simple yoga poses that exercise, like it's full body workout in 10 minutes. So if you haven't tried them, go check them out. There's lots of videos on YouTube that show you how to do them. Tibetan rites, R-I-T-E-S. It's just 5 yoga poses that you do, each one 21 times. Helps you, get up in the morning and get fit. Hi, Jose. So today, what are we going to talk about today? So yesterday we talked about as you're getting ready for the new year and creating your intentions for the new year coming up, thinking about what do you want to be different this year. I think COVID has been great for a lot of people in this sense, in that it's forced us to stop. It's forced us to take time to look at our lives, our jobs, our relationships, our careers, and really say, is this what I want? Am I in the right place? Am I doing the things that I really need to do to be happy? So, but before we can answer that question, oftentimes we forget to ask another question, which is, what is happiness to me? How do I define happiness? And that's a question we each have to ask for ourselves and define it. Hey. So welcome to all of you who are just joining me. And I want us to ask you about the layers of happiness. How do you define happiness? Because what I'm talking about is not, you have sort of the layer 1, which is, this kind of makes me feel good in the moment, right? Maybe eating an ice cream or, watching a movie or doing something fun, right? That just kind of, it's that instant gratification, triggers that dopamine, whatever that is, that allows me to feel happy in that moment, right? Then there's a different level of happiness, which is more the long-term happiness, right? Which we're talking about is like, okay, I feel really good about having achieved this thing, or, the happiness you might feel in the love of your family, in the love of knowing that you're a good parent, right? Or a good lover, or, whatever that may be. Hey, Gonzalez. So that's another level of happiness. And then I would say there's one even beyond that, which is, in my life, I would describe it as kind of like a deep peace or contentment. So where I just can be, where no matter what's going on around me, I can sink into this place of quiet and peace inside of me and know that all is well. And that's another layer of happiness. It's a layer of happiness that's not dependent. Perhaps I could call it joy, peace, contentment. It's a state of being rather than something that's caused by something else. So I like to think of our emotions like kind of like the waves on the ocean, right? There's lots of stuff that could happen that can cause these waves, right? A big speedboat might go by and cause splashing and, some big waves and emotional upheaval and stuff like that. But once we do the deeper work of meditating and healing ourselves and connecting to God or the universe or whatever that is where you feel that connected to consciousness, then I feel like, for me, I find that I can go into the space deep inside where it's like sinking. I don't know if any of you dive or surf, right? But when you're on top of the ocean, it's like really bumpy and all this stuff can be going on. But when you dive, you go deep under the water, it's quiet and there's peace. And it doesn't matter how, what's going on up top. If you go down deeper, it's peaceful and it's centered. And that's the kind of peace that I'm talking about, that I feel like that's the third level that I'm talking about. And you can have that peace in any moment, but when we're looking at our lives and looking at happiness and the effort that we're going to put into achieving that goal, right, then it's important, I think, to sort of look at what each of those levels are for you, and to ask yourself that, because so I'd love to hear from you guys. What are those levels? Where do you find joy and happiness? And the reason we want to make that distinction is because when I said that to look for things to make sure when you're looking at your life, to ask, is this really going to fulfill my goal of long-term happiness? It's not like, well, I don't feel like going to work today. I want to stay home and watch TV because that's going to make me happy. Well, that's not right, because that's not a long-term happiness. We often can flip the goal, right? So, I mean, how many of us, I know I do it all the time, right, are like, well, I'm going to eat this cake or this ice cream, or I don't eat well, thinking, because I want that instant gratification of eating that sugar or that sweet or whatever that is. But over the long term, I understand that if my health is in jeopardy, then, hey Mike, I understand if my health is in jeopardy, then that's not going to be very good for my overall long-term happiness, right? So, because it's a lot easier to be in that state of happiness when you are healthy. Doesn't mean you can't be in that state of happiness and deeper contentment, even if you are sick and even if you are suffering. You can, for sure, but it's definitely easier to be in that state of happiness when you are in that, when you're feeling healthy, right? So, ask yourself, what are the key critical things? Is it for you, for your long-term happiness? Is that like a sense of stability where I know I've got my finances in order and I feel comfortable that I can weather any storm? For a lot of people, like for me, that's a part of it. Hey Mike, shake out your mind, sugar. Yes. For other people, so you think about another thing for me, my long-term happiness is to feel like I'm growing, that I'm learning, that I'm contributing to the world. Connection, freedom. These are all things that are really important to my sense of happiness. And so to look at it and say, hey, okay, have I pushed too far in one direction and am I neglecting something else, right? So sometimes, at least in my case, right, I can focus so much on freedom that I'm not maybe connecting in relationships in the way I want to do it. And so I'm losing out on the connection side or the family side. And I think that happens to a lot of people. A lot of people maybe are so focused on success or their careers that they lose contact with the thing that they're doing all of that hard work for, which are their children and their spouse, and creating a safe haven and love for those people in their lives. Yeah, so that's basically it. Just take some time today to sit down and think about what's happiness for you. Where do you really derive happiness from? And remember, this is not a lot of times this is not a selfish exercise, right? Because when you think about it, it's actually more selfish not to think about these things, right? Because if you say, okay, well, I'm going to neglect my child because I feel happier running off to go do this stuff. Well, if you really sat and thought about it, you'd say, well, in the long term, I'm going to regret having damaged my child through that neglect. And that's going to really hurt me in the long term, even if right in this moment I wanted to run off and go do this, that, and the other. So when you sit and think about your long-term happiness, not just your short-term gratification, that will help you create the goals that will, for this new year, that will work towards building true happiness and contentment for you. And sometimes doing those things means a little bit of hard work and pain in the current moment, right? Like if I want to be healthy and fit, sometimes I gotta forgo the cake and eat my mung bean soup instead, or go to the gym and work out a bit, or even more deeply face core wounds or issues, traumas that I have, and do the healing work for them. And for me, that's something I've seen a lot of people are afraid of, but that's where you're going to get to that deep happiness I'm talking about as well. When you're willing to face those core wounds and fears and do the healing work for them, then, and in my experience, that short amount of pain of having to go back into that place and do that work, really, it lasts so short, like 15 minutes, and then you can come into a totally new place. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope you guys are all having a beautiful, wonderful day, and that you find for you what really makes you happy, and that you can create the goals that will bring you that joy, that connection, that growth, that contribution, security, whatever those things are. Really think about them and make sure that as you make your intentions, that's where you're going, right? So that's what I've had to do a lot of thinking about in these. I do that a lot more than just once a year. So, love you all and have a beautiful day. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.